We are back on this 4x4 Vauxhall Nova build. So in the last episode, we finished fitting this Land Rover Discovery boot floor and the transit wheel arches. And in today's episode, I want to fit one of these along with this cable shifter set. Now, if you don't already know, these are F20 gearboxes out of a Cavalier GSI 4x4. So we do have a transfer box which bolts in here. Gearbox in my Nova is an F20, but it's just a front wheel drive version. The casing is different and there's a few differences. So I need to fit this gearbox to test fit it basically. And the gear shifter setup's out of a much newer Astra J, which is like a 2012 Vauxhall Astra. It's a 20 years newer than that gearbox. Believe it or not, the turret and everything what makes this work kind of fit to an F20 gearbox. So I basically want to retrofit a much newer gear linkage system onto an old style gearbox. But before I do all that, I want to show you a few things. So I've had these machined. These are Vectra 5-stud front hubs and they've been machined to fit inside Nova wheel bearings. I've got some brand new Febby wheel bearings, good quality OE quality ones. I've also got a new boot gas strut because I think when I did all the welding, I might have damaged my old one because it stopped working. And the ultimate bargain, I've bought a cast T3 Garrett style manifold. Now this is a C20 elect manifold, cast iron, so it won't crack. It's a log type manifold. These were made back in the 90s and they're quite rare now. And I managed to get this off eBay for just 26 quid. So I'm over the moon with this. So you may be thinking, Dan, I thought you was trying to use an Evo 7 turbo. Well, I was. Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest, I was. However, I've had a company approach me, who I'm going to reveal later down the line. They've basically said, look, we've got some decent turbos. Would you like to trial one for your projects? They've offered me a turbo which is suitable for 450 to 500 horsepower on this car. Yeah, and it's got a T3 flange. Hence why I bought this. So I'm going to try that and hopefully it's all going to fit nicely and clear, but who knows? That's a long way off yet. For now, let's crack on with the gearbox. But before I start on the gearbox, there's one last thing I want to do, and that's to go around some of these seams with some Tiger Seal. Now, obviously, I have painted this. This isn't the final finish. I've just put some primer on for now. However, it's not watertight, and I want it to be much more watertight. Now, I've got a half-used tub of Tiger Seal, which is like a polyurethane adhesive, which will be perfect for the job, and if I don't use it soon, it's going to go off. So I figured I might as well just go around some of these edges, use the last of it up for now. Right, let's do that. So I'm going for kind of factory look. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you look at most factory cars, the sealant's not great. So as long as it looks better than that, I'm happy. And after a rather sticky 15 minutes, it's all done, and I think it looks pretty good. Most importantly, it's going to keep the water out. Right, so what do we know about fitting these gear cables? Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't know a great deal other than I'm told it all fits. So this is the much newer turret. This is where the cables clip on. As you can see, it goes up and down like so. This is the original one down here, which you probably can't see very well, but it was a rod type setup. So there's a robot bolts on there and they're known for having play in. I did modify it quite a lot and it was considerably better. However, this is still the best approach. So first thing I'm going to do, just to give us a bit more space, I'm going to remove the coolant header tank, the dizzy and some hoses just so we can see what we're doing a little bit more. Now this is a prime example of going backwards to go forward. Now I feel like I constantly keep taking things off this car. It's never going to go back together. However, I need to have confidence in myself because I'm sure it will one day. But yeah, didn't want to do this, but I had to make a bit more space. Right, this is the offending item I need to remove. Now what I'm going to do basically, just to make this clear, as this is an F20 gearbox, and so is the other one, to all intents and purposes, they're the same. They are slightly different, but doesn't matter. So I'm going to put the turret on this and make sure the cables fit before I take the gearbox out and then try and work it out, because I think we need to drill a hole in the bulkhead somewhere. So I'm going to unbolt this now, stick this in, and go from there. So at this point in the video, I was very optimistic this was going to be quite a straightforward job, fitting these gear cables, getting it all working. How wrong was I? And there we go. As you can see, they are both out, and as you can see, they're quite similar. Put that there, you kind of see them do the same thing. Bolt up the same, just look entirely different inside. So let's put it in. So what I can gather, that's reverse. You normally tell it's reverse because it's quite clunky, like that. So reverse, first, second somewhere, second, fourth, third, fifth. Something along the lines of that. Now, if you're really lucky, your F20 or F16 or F18 gearbox will have a mounting lugs for this. This holds the cable. I'm not lucky. I've got 3 F20 gearboxes and none of them have them. Such is life. So we're going to have to make something which adapts this to the gearbox. Now, you can just make a bracket with bolts onto one of the bell housing bolts. I think I'll do that, but I think I'm going to try and give it some more support somewhere else. Not exactly sure I'm going to do that yet, but we'll get to that. First off, I need to just try and make sure the cables kind of fit in the right place. And this is where I underestimated just how hard this was going to be. Getting a drill in here to drill some holes, although it doesn't look too bad on camera, it was really hard. Couldn't do it dash side because I didn't want to take the dash out, and engine bay was stupidly tight. I had to take the start motor out, and yeah, just struggle. Wasn't great. Right, let's try and get these cables through the hole and see what it looks like. So there we go, that physically fits. And as you can hear, it's working, although the bracket is moving a little bit, so it's not going to work properly. So next problem, as you can see, the cable's too long. This needs to be here, basically. So yeah, I need to shorten them a little bit, but that's not such a concern. Also, I think they're mounted slightly too high under there. You can't see, but the holes are drilled slightly too high. However, I couldn't really get in very well. So once I strip it to rebuild the car, shall we say, we'll then make the holes a little bit bigger so we can move the cables down a little bit. As you can see there, that is all working properly. This bracket's just floating around. It won't be forever. And the cables have gone through there nicely. But like I say, they're a little bit high there. It's just putting a bit of a curve on the cable. So a couple of days later, I've dragged the gearbox out that I want to use. And now I need to essentially make this fit this. Now, as you can see, there's 0 bolt holes. Nothing for me to go off. But I've been looking at lots of pictures. And I think my plan is I'm going to make a bracket. From what I can gather from looking at pictures, it needs to sit level with this. It's about this kind of high. Roughly about there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a little bracket with bolts to this. Goes across here, which I can bolt this to. And I think I'm just going to make it look as good as I can from the pictures that I've got. Make sure it all works off the car. And then we'll take a risk. Obviously, it is adjustable a little bit, the gear linking setup, so I'm not too worried, but yeah, need to do something like that. So let's make a start. As always, I use a bit of old recycled cardboard to make a template. I roughly cut it out, draw it up, make it look something like, and then transfer it to steel. Now, if I'm honest, this was actually quite difficult. There was quite a lot of weird angles and shapes I had to compete with, and I was only looking at pictures. I had no other reference. So it was a little bit difficult to work out exactly where it needed to be. But with a little bit of time and patience, we did get there. Now this bracket, I'm going to be honest with you guys, took me about 3 hours to make. That's 3 hours, and this is a, 15-20 minute video? And this is just a small bit of the video, but it's an essential bit. So this just goes to show how long I spend doing these videos. Now, the channel's grown significantly recently. I'm really happy with the progress. But for me to put even more time into these videos to make them even longer and even better for you guys, I need more subscribers. So if you can help me by hitting the subscribe button, sharing the videos, sharing the channel, doing anything like that. If you enjoy these videos, just support the channel. All you have to do is hit subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends, and that's going to help me spend more time in the garage and do more stuff like this. I really enjoy doing it. I'm loving how it's all growing, but I do need a bit of help from you guys because it's very, very labor intensive. And just remember, it's completely free to subscribe, to comment on the channel, to do anything like that. And it's going to make sure you don't miss out on any future content or any future projects. So I've made this little beauty. Now, I'm going to be honest, the first fit didn't fit. So I've had to redesign it slightly, but we've got there. It fits quite nicely now. So basically I had to follow the shape of the diff essentially, because that's like a curved radius there. I've welded some little nuts on the back, and that just simply bolts through like so. So, as you can see, that bolts to that. Next job, I need to get the bracket to work. So I'm hoping I can clamp that somewhere along them lines and get it to work fine and dandy. Right, let's have a go. So doing this was a little bit of trial and error. I did have some pictures of reference points, but I didn't know exactly where it needed to be. So I'd use some welding clamps just to kind of hold it in place, keep trying it until I was happy. Right, so after quite a lot of playing, I think we've got it in about the right place for it to work. So I'm going to loosely drill holes. Well, I say loosely, I'm just going to drill holes. Then nut and bolt it and just see if it feels okay, but I think it's going to work. So I will use captain nuts at the end, but for now I'm just going to bolt it just to make sure it works. I don't want to make it too permanent because it may not. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Beautiful. So I wasn't 100% happy how solid this was, so I wanted to secure it on this side. So I've used this. This is an XE or a C20 inlet manifold bracket. This kind of holds the bottom of the inlet manifold, stops it breaking essentially. It's an old one, I didn't need it. So I've basically bent it like so. It should be fairly straight. Ground it about a little bit, and that is going to bolt on there like so. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to weld this to this, dress it all back, make it look factory. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, and it's going to make it a lot more solid. Right, let's weld it on. So what I do, I tack it up first, then I take it off, weld it up properly. Now I want this to be really strong, I want it to support it, and I want it to look as factory as possible. So as an example, where I folded the metal, I slotted it, I build this back up with weld afterwards, and I grind it all down so it kind of matches and looks, oh wait, it doesn't look like I've messed with it. Once it's all welded up and I'm happy with it, I then move on to add in some dimple die holes. Now, I didn't really need to do this, but again, makes it a little bit lighter, gives it a little bit more strength, and it looks kind of cool. And again, makes it look a little bit more factory, I guess. Now, people have asked me before where I got my dimple die tool from. Now, this was from AliExpress. I think it's a set of 3 for about 60 quid, which may sound expensive, but they're really well made and really decently engineered. So yeah, they're substantial, they're not crap, and they should last a lifetime. Anyway, that's the finished bracket. As you can see, I've ground it all flush, dressed it all back, and now I'm sanding it ready for some paint. A couple of coats of primer and some satin black later, and don't that look great? It's really sturdy now, and it's going to work perfectly. Please forgive the audio, my mic wasn't switched on. Put the bracket back on, put the gear cables on. I've just tweaked it a little bit because the cables weren't quite right. But look at this, I'm really chuffed with this. So, reverse, you can hear that clunk. That's reverse, you have to lift the gate up to get up. And we've got first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Beautiful, and it feels really nice. So although this feels really good, there's still room for improvement, such as this here. Now, can you see the play in that? That's loads and loads of play. Now, remember the cables are actually too long for the Nova. So I am going to shorten them. And I am going to do away with these because they look terrible. It's a really bad design. I'm going to put a more solid, substantial bit of kit on. So that's going to hopefully resolve that and make it even tighter. There's a little bit of play in this bush here. Well, there was a little bit of play. But what I've done is I've literally turned it round. So I've spun it around 180 degrees. Because as you can see, it's not quite in the centre. It's worn to one side. So that's taken quite a lot to play out. So I'm really happy with that. So yeah, get rid of play out of them 2 ball joints, and I think it's going to feel as solid as a rock. Right, next job, we've got to physically remove the old gearbox. Now, as I said at the start of the video, I do have a 5-stud front hub setup to put on this. So I am taking the hub off. I don't really need to do that, but I'm doing it just because I need to do it later down the line anyway. It gives me a bit more room. Now, I made this lower kind of cross-member bracey thing a few years ago, and it just stiffens the front end up. Again, that's in the way, has to come off. Normal Nova wouldn't have this. Obviously, a normal Nova wouldn't have a full before transfer box either, so let's not compare. So once I get suspension and that out the way, I unbolt the transfer box bracket so I can pull the transfer box out the gearbox. Now remember, it's the wrong gearbox fitted, so it's not actually properly fitted, so it doesn't take too long. Then I remove the homemade mount off the back of the sump, the front mount, take out the bell housing bolts, obviously the clutch cable, and that is pretty much it. They're fairly simple on these old girls, a little bit tighter because obviously we've got a big 2-litre engine, but that's it. So the bolts should all be out now, so the gearbox should just slide out, and as per normal, it doesn't because I left one bell housing bolt in. Once I identified that, it just slides out. Right, we're a bit tight for space, but the next job is this area here. Now, I cut a lot of this out in the previous video to fit the transfer box. Obviously, the steering rack's not supported here. I've had to cut this right back, and all these bottom arms, etc., aren't very well supported, so we need to do something about that. So what I've done I've cleaned everything back and I've made these plates. So there's a plate there that's going to weld here and plug weld through. That's going to box this section in here and make it a lot stronger. I've also done a nice little dimple die there, just make it a little bit lighter and make it look a little bit more factory. And I've also made this here, which has got a nice little curve put in here, which is going to go something like that. It's going to weld all the way around. A couple of plug welds, and it's going to be nice and strong. Just box it all in and give it a bit more strength. Then once all that's welded in, I'll address this section here and this section here. So these are made out of 2mm thick steel sheet. I made everything by hand using just basic tools such as angle grinder, hammers, some big 10mm thick steel sheets just to kind of clamp the metal to and help bend it, and some chisels and just stuff like that. I do plan on making a lower cross member for this area once it's all done, but for now this is going to give it the strength and allow me to fit the gearbox properly. So this bit's all done now. He's dressing back a little bit more, but like I've said a million times, this isn't the final finish. This is just so I can test it all, and then I'm going to bare shell the car and finish all these little jobs off. Right, next job is the bottom of this steering rack here. Now it's a little bit loose because I've cut some of the bracket off. It should be like that. So I've just made this little bit of steel. Just going to weld there, like so, and spot weld to the bulkhead. And that's going to make it a bit stronger. And I just need to cut the bottom of this off because that's just going to foul. And that should work beautifully. So the plan for now is to repair all these little bits on the car to make it usable on the track. And then I want to make sure she drives properly. So just build it up with basic bits. I'm not going to go to town on it. I'm not going to sort all the bodywork 100%. Just make it okay so I can drive it, make sure she drives well. And then I'm going to bare shell the car and rebuild it properly in the future. And finally, the last piece, I've just cut it out, put a dimple die, drilled some holes for some plug welds, and that's going to fit something along the lines of that. And when I say future, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to drive the car in the next few months. Now that might sound optimistic. I've got a list of things that I need to do to actually get it running. It's not that bad, but it does need things like brake lines and obviously the prop making and a few bits like that. But hopefully we can get it done. And there we go, that's that side. Now I haven't dressed it back yet because we're running out of time here. I want to try and get this video wrapped up soon. But yeah, you get the idea. And like I say, I'm going to tidy it all up when I put it on the spit. So at the start of the video, I said I wanted to get the gearbox in for the end of this video. However, I have failed at that. So yes, I could finish the video and put the gearbox in and do a few more bits. However, I think the video has been long enough. I've been about 3 weeks filming this and I really want to get a video released just to show you guys that I'm still working on the car. So we're going to wrap the video up there today. We have done quite a lot. I'm really pleased with what we've done. Remember, we've done all the cable setup, got all that working nicely. We've drilled the holes in the bulkhead for the cables. We've also reinforced all the bulkhead area and made it nice and strong, ready to put the gearbox in. So in the next video, we're going to fit the gearbox, fit the gear cables and shorten the gear cables. I'm waiting for some parts to come for that. We're also going to put some 5-stud front hubs on this, along with new wheel bearings and new 284mm Libra turbo brakes. So if that kind of thing interests you, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We're getting close to 5,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing for me. Absolutely loving it. And the more subscribers I get, the more time I'm going to have in here working on this car. So if you want to see that, help the channel by hitting the subscribe button, liking the video and leaving a comment below. Stay tuned for more. See you later. Bye bye.